It's actually a huge difference, I think, between being online and actually being able to interact with people in person. I personally prefer it much more being able to, work with people in the same room rather than having to be online. Like, there's so much more that happens when you're doing it. It's so much more feedback and emotional interaction. Even though you can't really see people's face because they're wearing a mask, I really feel that it is just so much better to be able to do that, despite whatever the other issues are around that. So I think it does. Yeah, it actually does in terms of what people are able to do, especially for music. With online classes, since nobody can really be playing at the same time or singing at the same time, you can't have a whole group do something all at once. So it ends up being just hearing individual people do things, or just me like doing something and then not really knowing what's happening, like with everybody else, like what everyone else is doing. And so definitely, like, being in person is much more, you can do things at a much faster pace, and you don't have to like wait. There's not all the issues of like, I have to like load this PowerPoint up and do all these things. And I think for other teachers it's probably a lot different, just because of the way that they teach and the material of like, giving information or things like that. But with music, it depends so much on seeing and hearing like just all the individuals and all the people in a huge group. So being able to do that in person is much more efficient than online.
So what are some safety practices that you do in class?
Okay, so we're basically going with, there was this document that was put out by the BCMEA, which is like the BC Music Educators Association, and I think it was all approved by the health minister in BC and everything. So it's actually really like comprehensive. But well, first of all, it's like we're spacing apart, like at least 2 to 3 meters, because all of the music classes are in the gym, and we are for the instrumental classes for strings rather, everybody wears a mask. Same thing for choir. And for band, since they're not actually, like using like air coming out of the instrument, what happens is that the sound is actually creates kind of like the vibration creates like this. It stops the flow of air, right? In order to create a vibration, it has to, the air doesn't project forward past the vibration. The sound particles vibrate, but the actual air does not like project forward, right? So in music classes, instrumental classes, people are not wearing a mask, but they're still seated really far apart. And then we also leave the room, during the class to let all the everything settle, all the air settle and everything. So it's kind of like, like refresh everything, I guess, refresh the air. And I don't know if there's anything else. Yeah, just try and have people move apart. I like have to, wash all the, kind of like sanitize all the chairs and everything after, in between each classes. And use hand sanitizer when I'm using the piano, and then the piano accompanist comes up and all those different kinds of things. So I think for some classes it's okay, like classes where they're mainly dealing with people learning certain kinds of information, and like where it deals with content rather than skills. I think in a skills-based class, people need to develop those skills over a long period of time. So it actually helps having space in between, right? Like if you have a day in between, it helps for your brain to like assimilate all the information, and it kind of like percolates down, And then even if somebody kind of like barely learn something one day and then they take like a day or two off and then come back, it actually like feels like you know it better when you come back. But if you're just like, you know, trying to incorporate a lot of information and everything, then I think that might work for some people. But I think for myself and for music especially, it's like it's much harder to achieve something in that short amount of time. And having you know, a linear class rather than a quarterly class works better for music rather than. Well, okay, my main concern is that after this whole thing is over, that they're going to keep the quarterly system. Like, I hope that they don't keep the quarterly system. I hope it goes back to being like a year-long kind of schedule, and that would really be my main concern. I know there's like sort of, you know, an issue of all the people being together in schools and that being a health risk. And there have actually, I've been looking at some of the BC Coastal Health Authority websites, and there have been a number of schools all throughout Vancouver where there might have been, you know, there's some kind of exposure to COVID. And I think though, you know, within the way that everything is working right now, that it will be kind of contained, and that when people, if somebody does get sick, then, you know, people will be able to like isolate, and so it won't have to be the whole school that would have to do that. So I think the system, the way it's set up right now, is pretty safe. And so I think it's going okay in that sense.